Good morning, everyone. If we can get to the next slide. Thanks for being an active participant of the Connectedness Project. Um, whether you are joining us with your coffee, with your early lunch, coming from another class, or just surviving another meeting, we are delighted to have you spend the next hour with us. On the next slide, we're going to see that there are four components to the Connectedness project. The one that we're going to be focusing on today is the connected to adults.
So, during our time together today, we have an hour. We're going to learn how relationships with trusted adults support students' sense of connection and that engagement. We want to hear and share about some of those ideas for connection from all of you in the room today. And we really want to know, like, how do you know that the adults really know you? And you're going to hear us talk about a design sprint, and we're going to share how to do a design sprint in your context at your school or where you're at from today. And that means we're going to learn how to test ways to build those meaningful connections with adults to strengthen support, that guidance, and engagement in school. So that's what we're going to do today. And to get started, you might want to grab something to write with, maybe a paper, pen, or your computer to jot down some thoughts, your ideas, and maybe whatever you're going to gather from today's session to take back to your team. All right. So we're always going to start with some research. So we really want to know, like, where did this come from? Why is Johns Hopkins talking about this? What's the importance of it? So what does research tell us? When students have at least one caring adult at school who supports them, they are more likely to succeed, stay motivated, and to believe in themselves. Students do best when adults take the time to really get to know them. They listen to their ideas, they value their experiences, and they recognize what makes each student unique, right? And then, on the other hand, however, negative or disrespectful relationships with adults can stay with students and ourselves for a long time and shape how they feel about school, learning, and themselves. And we'll always cite the research that we received from this. This is like something that's been going on for like 20 years, this research, but there's some updated research that we added on the PowerPoint, and you'll have access to this as well.
So we're going to put everyone into just one big breakout room where you can have a discussion and just share with one another relationships about adults. So if you're an adult, you can think about when you were a student in school, and then we have lots of students who are in school right now. So in thinking about sharing some ideas in that breakout, is there an adult at school that you feel comfortable talking to about personal challenges or asking for advice? Another question to address is, how does this adult, so if you have an adult who helps you feel comfortable, how does this adult show they care about you and show that they care about how you're experiencing school? And then think about what actions or words from this adult make you feel supported and included. So for our students, you're thinking about an adult or maybe adults, because sometimes we have more than one adult that we're connected to at school, because that's really the most powerful. If we have more than one adult that we're connected to, we want at least one. And then if you're an adult in this breakout group, think about when you were a student, an adult at school that you were connected to. So we're going to give about 8 minutes for this discussion.
Time was too short for us, but I wanted to thank my group since I didn't have a chance to thank them. You guys were awesome. Thank you.
Well, Maria, would your group like to share out, someone from your group share out about an adult that you feel connected to at school and just how they express that care? What you're,
Yeah, so I mean, I think Leslie can go, Drake, Zulerma, who which one, whoever wants to do it, go ahead.
Hello. We'll start it off here. I'm Drake. This is Leslie, and we're from Health Leadership. And an adult in our lives, we have many here at school. We have a big like group of student support that you can go to and basically like talk to them about anything you're struggling with, and if like you need support or really anything that you need help with, you can kind of go to that student support group and basically talk over your problems with them and get the help you need.
And to add on to Drake, also for our student support group, they have a thing called a healing center where they can take any students and to have like private conversations about any problems, any issues going on.
Thank you. Would anyone want to add on?
So Norma, did we get everything?
Yes, I think just to add on a little bit more, I think everybody we all decided that the main thing that everyone felt with our amazing group of staff and teachers and counselors was that everybody's gentle, caring, and loving. Those were the main words used. Um, because everybody, you feel safe to go talk to them and you don't feel as though you're pressured or they're going to be having a biased opinion. You feel like they really will help you out. And there's just an amazing group that I feel our school really supports their students more than they really you'd ever think.
That was so beautiful the way that you stated it, because when you do feel cared for and you do feel loved, right? Then you know that your authentic self, the way that you show up, is so valued and so appreciated. Thank you each for sharing from your perspectives. We really appreciate it. And as we move forward, Maria's going to talk a little bit about waterfall chats.
Okay. All right, so let me just tell you that waterfall chat is a strategy. And the idea in Zoom, and the idea is that we are engaging the participants who want to give feedback about something. They're responding to a question, responding to a prompt, and you enter your ideas or the word actually, right, in the chat, but you do not press enter until until the desired word is the alerted word is given. So in our case, here is the prompt, right? And when I say connect is when you're gonna hit enter. Okay, so our our signal will be the word connect. All right. So the prompt is, what does a healthy, trusted adult relationship feel like? So you're going to enter your response. You're going to write your response, but do not enter until you hear the word connect. All right. Connect. And I think we have them all. Thank you. So what do we have? Let me just read some of the safe and supportive. A cool breeze on a hot summer day. Feels like a warm blanket wrapped around me inside and cozy and safe home. A healthy relationship with an adult feels like love and peace and no judgment. Thank you so much.
Those are great responses. Okay, now following that same pattern and those same directions, what does a healthy, trusted adult relationship sound like? So type in what you think it sounds like. Ready? Okay, connect. I love these answers. Ocean water, authentic and non-judgmental. I see you and I hear you. Quiet and soothing. Ooh, it sounds like a river stream and an orchestra. Nice.
And our final waterfall chat will be, what does a healthy, trusted adult relationship look like? And we'll give you a minute to type in chat what a healthy, trusted adult relationship looks like. And we will connect. We're starting to see inclusive and valuable. Oh, look at that, a smile. Flowers blooming in the spring. A warm hug. And co-creation. So beautiful. Thank you all for participating in our waterfall chats. And Michelle is going to talk to us about our design sprint.
Yep. So we saw the word co-created. I'm so glad I heard that and saw that and you thought of that. Because during our session today, you've heard us talk a little bit about what a design sprint or utilize those terms. And we're using that from liberatory design. And it's a short, focused process that's going to help people work together to understand a problem. It centers lived experiences and imagines new possibilities, especially those that challenge sometimes unfair systems and kind of amplify or listen to voices that are not always heard, right? Sometimes, like students. So the first thing you're going to see is that empathize, right? And the purpose to empathize is to truly understand people's experiences, their feelings, their needs, especially those who are most impacted by the issue. Sometimes we hear that educators and state mandates and policy make decisions about students, right? And you are the ones that are the most impacted. So we're listening to understand. We center those voices of the most impacted by listening deeply, asking open-ended questions, and reflecting on our own assumptions. So what might that look like? It's like listening to stories, perspectives, or even creating spaces where people feel safe to be honest. The next part is to define. And the purpose of the define is to clearly and collectively define the challenge based on what you've learned from what you had listened to, not on assumptions. And that this is where you name the real challenge. So you identify patterns and root causes to clearly define your problem. So what would that look like, right? That could be identifying patterns or finding the root cause of a problem, really diving deep into figuring out what is really causing this issue that we're having. And then imagine, which is probably my favorite. It's dream what could be and what could be done. And the purpose of this piece is to really creatively explore possibilities without limits or judgments. It's dreaming about what's possible. We generate bold, creative ideas without judgment and imagine solutions that are rooted in equity, belonging, and hope. And what could that look like? It's asking those cool questions that is like, what if and why not? And it's encouraging imagination over perfection. So then as we move on into the next slide, you're going to see the word prototype. And this is like making our ideas actually tangible, right? We create simple versions of ideas to see how they might work in real life. And then we try it. We test and we learn. We try out our ideas, we gather some feedback, and we learn what's working and what might need tweaking or some adjustments. Maybe something didn't work and we need to kind of change something that we did. And the last piece is to reflect. And you do this throughout the whole time you're utilizing this process. But reflect means to pause and grow. So we're reflecting on our impact, our equity, and learning, and asking what changed, who benefited to what we were doing, and what we'll do next. And that's a sprint design.
And so, as Michelle described that design sprint, that we are so delighted. That's why we're like smiling, seeing a student team here with us, thinking about how you might design a way for students at your school to feel more connected to school. And so Michelle just shared with us, right? She shared with us that one of the things that we're going to do is, start with this place of empathy, and then there's an opportunity to do some divining. So right here, you'll see that it looks like a flower. So what you were seeing on the previous slides were those petals to that flower. And in the center of it was notice and reflect. And Michelle mentioned that we were always reflecting, right? We're noticing ourselves as designers and thinking about maybe the biases that we might bring into the design process based on our own lived experiences. But what we're going to do as we start to move forward and as part of this student connectedness project is think about creating a design for ways that students at your school could feel more connected at school. And at the very beginning, Maria talked about that, right? We might do a design sprint for students to be more connected to adults at school, or for students to be connected more to your peers at school, or for you to be connected to school as a welcoming place, or for you to be connected to school as a way of having a purpose for helping others. The very first thing that Michelle talked about, though, was this piece of empathy, which is gaining the perspective of others. So really deeply understanding their context and valuing their voices and really learning from from their wisdom, from their perspective. So the piece of it is the very first one that we're going to explore when we go into breakouts, or maybe, is about empathy interviews. And with empathy interviews, you're really trying to understand the experience of others by asking questions. You're really trying to seek to understand. You're asking for the people that you're interviewing to tell you a little bit more. What was that like for them? Because you're really trying to understand their feelings, their stories, their perspectives. Another way to gain the perspective of others is through student surveys. And Michelle talked about this. Sometimes it's to really to put that focus on the voice of the student. So, from your perspective, what is important to take action on? What did we hear? And really, when we hear from you, it's for us to take that action so that we can build the trust. And we've created some links out so that you'll be able to see examples of student surveys. We have a student connectedness survey. We have interest surveys so that we can understand the mindsets, the attitudes, the feelings of the students in your schools. The next way is really shadowing experiences. And sometimes this is where we think about the day in the life of a student, but it could be the day in the life of a staff member or other adult that's on our campus, where you're going to fully immerse yourself to gain the understanding and perspective so that you can really see their life through their eyes so that you can better understand their perspective. And then we have conversation cafes. And and we saw that word a lot in our waterfall chat, right? A safe space really to explore the perspective of others so that it's a place where we can talk and that we can learn and that we can grow together and that we can take action together. And an example that you're going to see from the link is at RFK Charter School. So for those of you coming from New Mexico, there is an example in there where students were getting ready to do their capstone projects at RFK Charter School, and they brought together the community so that they could better understand the needs in the community. And so they had conversation cafe with the community. It was organized and it was designed by the students at RFK Charter. But sometimes it could be a smaller conversation cafe. It might be a conversation cafe that happens at your class. Maybe it's one that includes your families or it could be bigger, just like it was at RFK Charter, where it really brings in the perspectives of everyone in the community. And then the last way that we might gain the perspective of others is through focus groups. And really with focus groups, we want a variety of students. Michelle mentioned this. So, you want students where school is easy, or maybe school is hard, or maybe students who feel connected and those who don't feel connected to school. You want to ensure that you have a variety of voices in your focus groups. And are these the only way to gain the perspectives of others? Of course not. You may have some ways at your school that you're already gaining the perspectives of students. So we're going to spend some time with Maria next, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about shadowing.
Just as Jerry mentioned, right? Shadowing is really putting oneself in someone else's shoes to gain the perspective of whatever the environment you're in from their view. And so, in thinking about an adult experiencing the day in a school from the student perspective will require the adult to be spending the day with a student to see what is the school like? What is it like? Understanding the routines, and perhaps the interactions and challenges and barriers that they face every day. Okay, so one of the things that we did in working with the schools in Ohio, there was a general agreement, the Hillier School District in Ohio, that it came from the superintendent that they were going to spend the day with a student and really get to know what happens throughout the day. And they did it. And it was an incredible amount of information they came back with. There were things like they understand now why one of the students will come to class late, like 5 minutes late every day. And when whoever is taking roll that first period is like, he's late, right? That's all we know about that, the lateness of the student. What we didn't know is that he had to go to another building to drop off his girlfriend. And he was doing that as a sense of protection, whatever the reason may be, but there was a reason and a very valid reason for that student to be 5 minutes late every period. So such information then informed, right? Just that is, information informs, right? The teacher on the first period why, and then they worked out some kind of a deal where he stayed 5 minutes later, he came back at lunchtime. It was, but it was a way to accommodate this need that the student felt, to be able to walk his girlfriend to class. And that's just an example, just a very small view on how that can happen. It just provides you a wealth of information about what happens in the school. On the other side, the same could happen with students, right? Shadowing an adult, shadowing an assistant principal, shadowing a principal, a guidance counselor. You learn so much by doing that too. So it works in any context in this case. So that's what we have about shadowing. There is a link in the right on this. It's on the slide, and also I think Jerry, you added it, right? The two links to two of the ways that shadowing the student is addressed. And with that, we're going to go into the breakout rooms as an opportunity to explore the other four ways that we're suggesting you may want to use when gaining the perspective from others. So in room 1, we're going to have empathy interviews and student surveys. Room 2, conversations cafe in the other one. And we're going to be there for 8 minutes. And then after that, we'll switch. So we're really going to be able to explore all four. Okay? So are we ready? Okay.
And we'll probably have about 5 minutes in the rooms.